Welcome. This is a video brought to you on behalf of the Real Property Probate and Trust Law section of the Florida Bar. It's going to be a 6 or 7 minute video about online mediations. If you are part of the death side of the section, then we've probably met. For those who haven't, and for those on the dirt side who don't know me, my name's Rich Caskey. I am the chairman of the Probate and Trust Litigation Committee of the section. And this topic is one that's of importance right now to litigators or any other practitioners who are going to engage in mediation during this period of shutdown in connection with the coronavirus. So it's got some particular importance. I want to talk about mediations online, how they're conducted, what do you need to do in order to participate, what are the security concerns, the confidentiality concerns, and then I'm going to go over some frequently asked questions and some etiquette in connection with appearing for an online mediation. And again, this shouldn't last more than 6 or 7 minutes. We want to get you the information quickly and get you out of here. So let's start with just the concept of online mediations. I know, I've been practicing law for a long time. I've been a certified mediator for over 10 years. My general preference, and I think the preference of most lawyers, is that they have all the parties attend the mediation in person, right? And that's generally what people want. There's something about going through the process in person. But we often allow parties to attend by telephone or video conference. And in this day and age, during this current epidemic, this is happening a lot. And I'm getting a lot of requests for full-blown online mediations, and I'm accommodating those. There's a lot of different software out there that can be used. Folks use Zoom, FaceTime. You can use RingCentral. GoToMeetings is another one. Skype is one. So there's lots of different software out there. The section does not recommend or endorse any particular software for this. You need to talk to your mediator and find out what is being used and have any particular concerns addressed that way. We just want to give you some information generally about how they all work, because they're all pretty similar. So what do you need on your end in order to participate in an online mediation? Well, all the parties need two really important things, right? You need a microphone and you need a camera, because you need to be seen and heard during the mediation. So you can connect from just about any device, right? So almost all laptops and tablets and phones have a built-in camera and microphone. If you're connecting from a desktop, you need to make sure that you do have a microphone and a camera installed, because a lot of desktops are components and they don't have all those components. But you can connect from a variety of devices. If you are going to connect and you think about the size of your mediation, what you're going to end up with is a screen with everyone's face in a little box, kind of like I'm looking at you guys right now and you're looking at me. You're going to have that, and the bigger the mediation, the more little screens with faces you're going to have all over your computer screen. So if it's a big mediation, you're going to want to, you might want to have a bigger screen to handle all the different faces that you're going to see. Right now, you only get to look at one ugly face, and that's the way it goes. It's I'm in mid-coronavirus, unshaven. At least I took a shower today and came into my office a little bit. So what else do you need? That's it. It's probably a good idea to download the software ahead of time, although not all the software requires you to do so. What will generally happen is I'll play the role of mediator today. If I'm your mediator, I will send you a link ahead of time, and I'll say, hello everyone, we're scheduled for this online mediation on this date and time. Here's a link. Click on that link at the time of the mediation. And I would appreciate if you download the software in advance, because that'll make the mediation run smoother. This is the type of software I use, and this is where you can get it. And that will be distributed by your mediator. And if you have any questions about that, ask the mediator, because again, not all software actually makes you download it. There are some softwares out there that are free, and that you don't actually have to download the whole thing in order to make function of it and make use of it. So find out from your mediator ahead of time what's being used and what you need to download. You'll get that link. You'll connect through that link into the mediation. It is usually password protected. Sometimes the password will be embedded in the link by your host. So it's important that you don't forward that link to anyone who's not a participant. Forward it to your client if they're not getting it directly. Forward it to your co-counsel if they're going to participate. But don't forward it to everyone. Don't forward it to your secretary, your paralegal, and everyone else in the office who's not going to be in on the mediation. That's something you can do to help keep confidentiality and security. A lot of attorneys are concerned about confidentiality, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Real quick though, how does it work? You can do anything in an online mediation that you can do in a real mediation in terms of different combinations of meeting people. So all we've got differently is they're little online virtual breakout rooms instead of different conference rooms in the office. And so if you want to have just a session with the 2 attorneys talking, or 3 attorneys talking, or 2 attorneys and the mediator and exclude the parties and the other attorney, you can do that. Any combination of folks you can make happen. The host would control that, the mediator would control that, how the breakout rooms work and who's in which breakout room. You will usually start in a general session where everyone who's participating in the mediation is going to be on screen. And they're all going to be there all over the screen, and you can see them all and hear them all. The mediator, the host, will be able to control audio and video for everyone. So if he wants to mute folks, he can. Especially during the intro, I tend to mute everyone while I'm giving my opening statement. And then if lawyers are going to give opening statements, then they'll be unmuted. You can also control from your software whether your microphone is on or off and whether your camera is on or off. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. But generally, once that joint session is over, the mediator will then break everyone off into different meeting rooms and the mediation will begin. And it'll happen just like a normal mediation. The mediator will just bounce back and forth among the various rooms, and you might have 3, you might have 10, you might have 2. But that can all be managed from within the software, and you can do everything you normally do. You can kick the mediator out and say, hey, give us a minute to talk. I want to talk with my client, or hey, let's just have a just only attorneys meeting, and that can all be facilitated through the software. Let's come back to confidentiality real quick, and I think there are a couple things to be concerned about here. First of all, it's generally most of the burden on the technology end and the confidentiality end are going to be on the host. They're going to be on the mediator. And so as the mediator has to go through ahead of time and go through all the advanced settings in the software and make sure that the right options are turned on or turned off to ensure you've got the highest amount of security and confidentiality. The Mediation Confidentiality and Privilege Act still applies, just like any other mediation. And so communications cannot be shared with outside individuals. Some of the software defaults to automatically recording the session and sticking it in the cloud. That's got to be turned off. The functions and the options are in the advanced settings, and there are pages and pages and dozens of these advanced settings. But that's on the mediator. The mediator should go through and turn off all that recording, turn off the ability to share links freely and share data freely. I think for security purposes, if you're doing a mediation, you want to have all the highest measures in place. And that's something your mediator should tell you about and offer to you, but you should know about it. You should be aware that it's an issue. You may have heard of Zoom bombing, which is like photo bombing, but it's people jumping into these mass meetings. You've got some big companies that are having big meetings, and then all of a sudden someone pops in and throws in an offensive picture or something funny, or their dog doing something. And it's called Zoom bombing. It's jumping in the middle of someone's meeting. But that can be prevented by a lot of the default settings that the mediator controls. And then on your end, as a user, be careful. Practice confidentiality. Practice security. Don't share the link. Don't send it to people who don't need to have it. Send it to your client if they're not automatically invited, or they don't receive it directly. But don't just hand it out and share it to anyone else. I like during the mediations to share documents only by email and not through the software, because again, the more you run through the software, the more risk you have of it ending up somewhere that it shouldn't. If you email a document directly to the mediator, you're pretty sure it's going to arrive there and only the mediator is going to see it. Those are some concerns there. A couple of quick etiquette matters and pointers. You can control whether you're muted and whether your video is on or off, but you should always assume, I think it's a good practice point, just to assume at all times that if you're in the mediation, someone can see and hear you. If you make that assumption, just assume you're in public, that you're at a real meeting. Don't do anything you wouldn't do in public sitting at a table, at a conference table. There are lots of videos on the internet where people think that they can't be seen or that they're off and not part of the meeting, and they're going to the bathroom or they're changing clothes and doing things like that. So be aware of that. Be aware that just because you can't see someone on there, that doesn't mean they can't see you. and you need to be real familiar with those settings and different functions before you start using them and being confident that you know you're muted or you know your video has been turned off. So please be aware of that. Another thing to think about is to try not to talk over people. Usually there's a little bit of a lag and delay in the audio, so be mindful of that as well. And those are the important things there. This is not something to be scared about. It's something you can do. I think the biggest consideration is determining whether an online mediation is appropriate for your particular situation, or whether you should just wait until this dies down a little bit and you're able to appear in person and schedule it, a few months down the road. If I can be of any help or answer any other questions, please let me know. Either shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I hope that was an informative introduction to how online mediations work. Thanks.